the events of the past year have changed the global perspective. Banks have emerged as potential drivers of economic, social and environmental change.
Crucially, big lenders and other institutions can move the world forward, not just through the donation of time and money, but through innovation.
Earlier, we spoke to Darrell Jordan-Smith, Vice President, Industries and Global Accounts at Red Hat, and Scott Sajer, Red Hat's Vice President of North America Financial Services, to look at the role open source software can play. And I began by asking Darrell for his thoughts on the impact of digitization on financial services firms and how they should respond.
We've seen and what we're experiencing at Red Hat is the whole explosion of digital money, and social inclusion because of the digital aspect of money, the actual cleanliness, the physical cleanliness of money. People wanting to use touchless transactions and payment systems, and we're also seeing a lot of the telecommunications companies sort of beginning to step up, as it were, working in collaboration with the banking community in terms of trying to address that. So we see a lot of instances around software being created and solutions being created in that regard. And then if you expand that to what the industry, from what we see, we call it edge, is how do people at the edge of the network, at the edge of the bank, interface with the bank? What are the things that you might do? So certain countries are looking, for example, as taking their camera systems, if you go to a branch office, and looking at the temperature of individuals as they come into the bank, the spacing of the individuals, identifying those individuals so they get to speak to the right person at the right time to really, make that experience more efficient. So we see a lot of applications of technology and a lot of innovation occurring at these times.
OK, Scott, hold on to those thoughts and let's apply them in the following way, because, look, we know that open source has accelerated the degree of industry that we're seeing in the software software sector, innovation, I should say, in the software sector. But can you explain very quickly what that means and why it is so important for the financial services arena?
Right. I think to your first question, at Red Hat, as well as other companies that have chosen the open source community as the development model, we pour our R&D into engineers that are part of the community. In addition, we pick up competitors, we pick up partners and customers, and there's this force multiplier that transcends the proprietary software model, which has turned out to be a laggard relative to the rate of innovation that you see in open source software. And so in open source software communities, the best ideas survive. The ideas that are generated by customers or partners or competitors are all evaluated, and the best are what make it into the open source projects. How do we see that playing out in the banking industry, for example, which is very technology heavy? We see the opportunity to improve customer engagement or make their internal operations more efficient. We have modern and rapidly improving and evolving open source software that really allows them to keep pace with their business requirements and needs.
And whenever we think about this area, there are certain buzzwords that always rise to the surface. For example, inclusiveness and collaboration. They're seen as somehow key in technology to move along collaboration amongst the different partners. So how have you seen companies use the various inputs, the culture, the things that make people work, and how do you see the industry perhaps adopting towards an environment that's more inclusive and at the same time collaborative?
We're an open source company in that most of the developers and the community that create the software sit in the community. So by definition, our DNA is all around inclusiveness, creating software from different communities and bringing that together in a hardened enterprise class manner that can be deployed securely in a banking-based environment.
Okay, I mean, Scott, let me stay with that topic, because what I'd like to know from your perspective is what guidance would you give to the various technology teams about working with businesses? And conversely, what would you want the business teams to know about working with the technical teams?
The best-in-class firms, when it comes to collaboration, are the ones that successfully bring together both the technologists and the business people, because I think that combining of ideas in this day and age they can't do it as separate silos. And so I think that's really an important development that we see really evolve in the course of the last, 5 years or so. That if you want to keep pace with the requirements of your clients, you need to be collaborative with both the business and the technologists. Change the decision-making process so it's less hierarchical and it's more the best ideas succeed. Encourage participation from people of all levels and make it more of a meritocracy.
And Darrell, what impact do you see with technology companies, fintechs, and indeed established financial institutions who actually collaborate well together?
I think I see new products and solutions coming out of their businesses that address revenue generative opportunities for their business. And as Scott was just saying, the other thing I think is actually quite important is the agility that injects into the business. There's a much more agile methodology out there for the more successful institutions that are driving this change. The ability to learn to fail fast, modify the code fast, deliver new products fast, integrate across industries, particularly in times of adversity as we see today.
From your perspective, Scott, what are some of the lessons learned from the experience you've had of working with big partners who also happen to be competitors?
We are very collaborative. And so there's competition, cooperation across let's take cloud as a prime example, because I think that's where we see it most profoundly today. And frankly, Red Hat just came out with a whole marketing campaign around this idea of being able to connect competing alternatives. So clouds compete, but Red Hat is the glue that's bringing a seamless application experience across those. So I'd say that we generally find that we present our story as completely and with as much value as we can possibly deliver. And if it's at odds with the position that a competitor's taken or a partner who happens to be competing with us at that point in time, we work through the pros and cons with our clients to come up with the best ultimate solution.
So that was Darrell Jordan-Smith, who is Vice President Industries and Global Accounts at Red Hat. And also thanks there to Scott Sajer, who's Red Hat's Vice President of North America Financial Services.